Welcome back to Highly Successful Couples, the podcast that helps couples grow together instead of growing apart. My name is Nick Solaczek, your relationship coach, certified in couples therapy. If you find your text conversations in dating or relationships to be frustrating or keeping you stuck, listen to today's episode because we're going to discuss a few common issues with this and better understand why texting doesn't work well for certain applications, as well as consider alternative approaches. We're also going to talk about the power of eye contact and why that might play a role in the success of our conflict resolution and overall communication skills. In future episodes, we'll talk more about strategies in dating, effective communication skills. But today we want to talk about some of the nuances here that can affect the moment with your partner and our ability to hear each other. The way that we share and the way that we listen plays such a crucial role in the success of our relationships that we're going to come back to this subject time and time again and give you some alternative information and perspective, maybe a new philosophy to approach issues in your love life or other areas of your life, and see how that makes a difference for you. Today, we want to focus on texting because one common mistake that couples make is fighting over text. I hear this every week in my couples sessions. So it's not that text messaging is a bad thing or that you should never do it. It's that we need to avoid fighting over it. And this is a huge opportunity for couples to take their communication to the next level. I try to avoid, and I will try to avoid, black and white, all or nothing statements on this podcast. But I feel confident in saying that you should never, ever fight over text message. Do not have important conversations over text. Texting is for logistics. Confirming, hey, 7 p.m. work for you tonight? Hey, I'll pick you up at 8. Or, confirming something with a yes or no. Maybe if you and your partner like to send sex to each other, sexual text messages with consent, then that would be appropriate. Sending selfies. Hey, I'm at the park. I'm doing this fun thing. Wanted to share this moment with you. Maybe sharing a link to a song you love or a website you're looking at, something that you want to buy that you wanted to share with your partner, or maybe you wanted to share a podcast episode with them, like Highly Successful Couples. Sending appreciations or saying something positive to your partner. Letting them know that you don't take something for granted, you really recognize them, you see their value, you see their contribution. Texting can be great for all of these. And we can also use audio messages. Some people hate audio notes, others love them. So you got to work this out as to whether it works for you and your partner. But it can create an opportunity to just share more context where your partner can hear more about what you're saying. They can hear your vocal tone, and it gives you a chance to elaborate more about what is important to you and a little bit more about what you're experiencing. So in general, don't fight over text message. The key conversations that we need to have almost always go sideways and leave us feeling misunderstood and more disconnected. Two of the biggest factors here are that we're not making eye contact when we're texting, and we cannot hear each other's voice. Making eye contact plays an important role in social interactions. It helps build trust because it's often perceived as a sign of honesty and sincerity. It shows that we're engaged and that we can create a sense of security in the interaction that we're having. Obviously, how we hold our gaze and our body language plays a big role in whether eye contact is perceived as positive. Eye contact is a nonverbal cue, which signals a lot of information about whether our partner is paying attention, or whoever we're talking to, whether they're paying attention, whether they're actively listening, and whether they're processing what is being said. We can look at people and not be listening. Of course, we can be caught up in our own mental chatter, but generally this is a sign that someone is paying attention to us when they're looking at us. And our eyes are very expressive. A lot can be signaled in a single look. A lot can be expressed. Emotions like disapproval, excitement, boredom, concern, or even support can be conveyed with a quick expression. I don't want to butcher his name, but there's a researcher, Albert Morabian, a researcher of body language who broke down components of a face-to-face conversation. And he found that 55% of what we're getting is nonverbal, of what we're sensing. 38% is vocal, and 7% was words. And so in his research, he was talking about the emotional impact that we get in our conversations. So this is like our ability to get a sense of where someone is coming from and what they're feeling, as well as someone else's ability to sense where we are coming from and their interpretation of what our emotions are, what emotions we're experiencing. So in that sense, our eye contact, body language, tone, and volume are communicating a lot about what is being received and plays a crucial role in what people are sensing about us and what we are sensing about them. So coming back to eye contact for a moment, in most cultures, eye contact is taught to children from a young age as a sign of respect and attentiveness. Have you ever talked to an adult or a partner who's not looking at you? It doesn't convey a lot of confidence that they're listening or that they care. Our conversations can even flow with eye contact. We can signal that we're done speaking and it's the other person's turn to speak. And in this way, we can also convey that we're ready to listen. Essentially, the opportunity here is to have more productive interactions. It doesn't mean that we have a staring contest, that we, sit for 30 minutes staring at our partner without blinking. That might be awkward. That might even be considered uncomfortable or rude in some circumstances. Might feel like your partner's trying too hard or putting on an act. When we're inside of these moments with each other, if we're face to face, we just stand a much better chance of understanding each other. Yes, the moments can go sideways and we can get reactive. We can be sharing with our partner and they're not making eye contact with us, and that can make us feel frustrated. When our partner looks away, we don't need to immediately take that personally. When our brains get full and we're experiencing a high cognitive load, we might look to the side, look into the distance, look up and process what is being said. So we need to consider that as well. I've seen couples take that personally, even inside of a therapy session where their partner looks away or looks up, and they can feel like, you don't see me, you're not paying attention. We need to hang in there a little bit, give our partner some grace, allow them to come back to us, come back to the conversation if they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or they're, getting flooded with a lot of information. There are also some social norms, different perceptions of eye contact that vary across cultures and from person to person. As you are well aware, too much eye contact or staring can be perceived as aggressive or disrespectful. And while the social and cultural nuances are important, I believe the most valuable insights can come from how eye contact influences the brain and lights up certain centers, because particular areas of the brain do light up when experiencing eye contact. And those are associated with our perception, our social cognition, and processing of stimuli in our environment. So eye contact has a profound impact on the brain and can affect a wide range of psychological and neurological processes. It's crucial for interpreting signals and intention of others, and can help our brains become more synchronized, which helps our ability to communicate with each other. How we say things matters. It's often how we say things that determines how the conversation will go. And because we're all sensitive to vocal tone, volume, and facial expressions and body language, this stuff really matters. And over text message, we are missing all of these things. This leaves a bit of a void to which we can assume or project or imagine how things are being said. And part of this projection is a projection of our parents. The childhood piece is complex and we'll continue to reflect on childhood on this show. But essentially, the extent to which our parents or primary caregivers could attune to our experiences as children determines a lot about our own ability to process ourselves, understand ourselves, and feel a general sense that things are okay. And the clinical term for that is self-regulation. In terms of being listened to, if we had caretakers that didn't listen, didn't pay attention, maybe made us feel invisible at times, we're also going to be sensitive to that. We're going to be extra sensitive to not being listened to, not being paid attention to, because there's some wound or hurt from the past that plays a role in our adult life. And as individuals, we're only as good at this self-regulation thing as our parents. Our parents were the primary master regulators of the household. So their ability to handle stress and emotions is inherited by us. And this stuff can come out in our conversations, in our text messages, in our communication. So, if you get really heated and out of control in arguments, in person or over text, or you get really cold and withdrawn, maybe you leave people or your partner on red, you don't get back to them. This could be because your parents were unable to effectively regulate your system in some way, or part of your experience when you were younger. So in moments of tension or conflict or discomfort now as an adult, you might have certain strategies that you use to cope with what's coming up for your system, what's coming up for you in the moment. And most people honestly struggle with this in some way. And if you spent any amount of time on social media, you see videos of people getting highly reactive. And for most of us, it doesn't make sense, right? Why are they making such a big deal out of this? Wow, they're freaking out. Wow, they're a real Karen. These are some of the terms that we use to describe people that are totally stressed, unregulated, unable to process what's going on, and really kind of work through things in a relatively calm way. So these dynamics can show up in our life as individuals when we feel hurt, stressed, anxious, or our partner's feeling that way. And one of the main points here is that if our parents were effective at self-regulating, then we tend to become effective at this as well. And this includes things like self-control with our impulses and the ability to handle frustration with people or things in our life or aspects of culture. People who struggle with addiction, for example, they might be struggling with self-regulation on some level. I'm not a neuroscientist or an addiction specialist, and there are other factors at play, but self-regulation is a big one. Babies don't know how to self-regulate. Puppies don't know how to do it, and they learn it from their parents or their caretakers. And this is a big deal because our physical state influences how we respond to cues of safety and danger in our environment. Our partner can say something or say nothing at all, and that can trigger us or simply start to make us feel worried about a particular pattern or dynamic at play. And in moments when we're self-regulated, our faces, our movements, our vocal tone, and our volume will mostly be friendly. And our conversations will be connective, cooperative, and collaborative. So in a moment when you're not having a connective, collaborative, cooperative conversation with your partner, when the verbal conversation, the text message, the email, things start to get sideways or negative. It's no longer feeling connective, collaborative, cooperative. Get curious about this. Notice what's happening in the moment. Get curious if there's another way to work through this. There's another strategy. If you notice your partner is not self-regulated, it's not a chance to catch them in the act, shame them, and tell them that they need to figure their shit out. I would not recommend that. It's just going to make things worse. It is, however, a chance to get more curious and consider what is right for the moment. And examples might be saying something like this. I'm noticing that we're getting a bit heated or intense. Can we take a short break and come back to this conversation in 15 minutes? I care about you and want us to better understand each other. Can we meet back here in 15? Does that work? Or you might say, hey, I really want to talk about this together as a team, but I can see we're both feeling a little angry or upset. What can we do to try to reset this moment? What can we do to try and work through this together? Another example is you might say, hey, I really want to talk to you about this, but I'm noticing I'm feeling anxious because I have to complete this task for work. I got this deadline or I got to run to a meeting. Can we talk more about this after dinner and share more about what's important to us? There are other ways or other options available. These are just examples. And for some of us, it's more comfortable to text from a distance because we're not comfortable with the vulnerable nature of talking face to face. We fear being rejected, feeling invisible, creating conflict, and we don't want to experience any further loss of love or loss of approval as a result of having a difficult conversation. And if we've had negative experiences with our partner in the past, we've had hurtful experiences with partners before the one that we're with, that all can play a role here as well. For some of us, it's easier to type from the comfort of our phone, but we often set ourselves up for failure because we can be pretty lazy when typing with our thumbs. And it's easy to just put the phone down in frustration or leave your partner hanging because we aren't sure what to say or how to respond, or we just simply don't want to talk about it. We can also be busy and focused on other tasks that are important to us. We can just not be available. And paired with that, there can be an expectation that many of us have that our partner and people in our life should get back to us as soon as possible. And when they don't, we wonder why. And when we're in the dark, we have a tendency to fill in the void with negative assumptions that fit our own insecurities or not good enough stories we have about ourselves. And as I mentioned previously, part of this experience is also a projection of one of or both of our parents. So for example, if you had a parent who would stonewall you, be non-responsive and unavailable to you emotionally, it's very easy to fear or suspect that your partner is the same way. Then we start to treat them like they are our parent without realizing it. Then they might react negatively to us and feel a similar kind of pain that we felt as a child. And your partner might feel a similar kind of pain that they felt as a child. And we start to wonder, what's wrong with us? What's wrong with our partner? What's wrong with this relationship? And some of us look for the nearest exit. Some of us abandon our needs just to keep the relationship going. It's a painful dance. It's difficult to separate your childhood from your adult experience because it always plays a role in what is important to you and what you are sensitive to. Your needs matter as an adult, and there is a historical context that almost always powers your fear and anxiety about things that go on inside your relationship. You might find yourself in relationships that are inconsistent, unreliable, and unstable because that resonates with a large part of your childhood experience. You were drawn towards a familiar kind of love, for better or worse. And we all do this, and it's really hard. This is one of the main reasons why romantic relationships are hard. Half of marriages fail, and a large percentage of people are just unsatisfied, but never do the work to make meaningful changes that they seek. They have these experiences over and over again and just believe that this is how it is, or men are just like this, or women are just like that. And these are sensitive issues. They need to be handled with care. We need to be handled with care. And in our romantic relationships, we are in each other's care, but we often fail to embody that understanding. So in general, how can we talk about our challenges without shaming each other into oblivion and instead have more empathy for each other's position? How can we hold hands on the roller coaster of life instead of unclipping our seatbelt and jumping off? Most couples want to be on a scenic river ride, but they stay on the roller coaster experience driven by their unconscious self-sabotage and childhood pain. As Dr. Harville Hendrix likes to say, talking is the most dangerous thing that couples do. And this applies to really all forms of communication, including in person, over the phone, text messages, and other forms of writing. Talking is dangerous because we have a tendency to talk down to our partner, talk at them, and get negative with them. When we're really anxious or really frustrated, listening basically goes out the window as we try to jam our perspective down each other's throats. So if you don't know how to talk about the difficult things, then you have an opportunity to learn how. What would it be like to deeply connect on the subject matters that cause you stress, anxiety, and pain? What would it be like to fully understand your partner? What would it be like for them to fully understand you and for you to be seen for your experience? And texting, not the forum for this. Texting should be for logistics, sending a quick love note, sexting with consent, not advocating any non-consensual dick pics or other sex. Texting's for selfies, sharing a link that your partner asked for or that you want to share with them. So in general, be very, very mindful with your text messages. Do not fight over text. For those of you that have worked with me, you know that appreciations can be done in a formal imago dialogue, and they can also just be sent via text or voice note. For those of you that don't know what imago dialogue is, it's one of the techniques that's at the heart of this relationship theory that I'm certified in, and we're going to talk more about that in future episodes. So just this thing around sending appreciations, it's not that hard to text your partner, send them an audio note, call them, or just turn to them in the kitchen and say, hey, one thing I appreciate about you is, and just share and acknowledge something you value, something you love, something you appreciate. It doesn't take a lot of energy to do simple appreciation like that and build your partner up and put some positive deposits into that bank account of your relationship. These things that we take for granted every day, that all the things that we do for each other, we do for the home, that we just kind of sometimes don't acknowledge. It's a powerful practice, and it's a big opportunity for all couples. For reasons we have and will continue to discuss, in-person conversations can always go sideways, but you set yourself up for more success than texting. Texting your complaints to your partner and your criticisms is just a recipe for disaster. If you want to learn more about being successful and breaking through these kinds of challenges, consider taking my online course called Romantic Relationship Reset, which could completely change the outcome of your love life. And the feedback and testimonials I've got on that have been amazing. I created my show with the audience in mind, which means no ads or sponsors or wasting your time. So if you love this podcast, consider leaving a 5-star review. It helps support the show, which will then help more people in creating relationships that they love. Thank you for tuning in, spending time with me today. I look forward to speaking with you next week.